Today is the day, people. We've been dragging this out as long as I could to try to get my ginger as long of a season as possible, but we are hitting that diminished returns. We don't have it in heat. We did move them inside my greenhouse, but I do not have any heat on them, so we're supposed to get some really cold nights coming up. So this is it. We're going to take these gingers out. We're going to see what kind of a harvest we can get from them, and we're going to make a movie so you guys can know ginger grown in the Pacific Northwest. Who would have thought? But you definitely can do it. And I'm going to show you how we did it, and I'm going to let you know what we end up getting out of it. So stick with us, and we're going to do all things ginger grown in the Pacific Northwest or a cool maritime climate. Okay, here we go, guys. This is the first one. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these planted up. They're about 8 inches deep, and it's just, as you can see, a produce bin that is about 16 by 20. And we planted these up in the spring and really have kind of neglected them a little bit. So we're going to see what we're going to get out of this. We're going to take them out and harvest them out, and then we'll show you at the end what all we get, but we'll take you through the steps that we did with this. I decided a long time ago that growing ginger, at least in my area, in deeper pots is not necessary. They really grow like hand to hand to hand to hand. So if you put too much of it too deep, it's just kind of a waste, you know. So the bottom never really got anything in it. So now we grow in these smaller ones, and I just made some grow bags here, and that's what we grow them in. So let's start digging and see what we can get here. Well, there's one little one to start with. One little piece of ginger. Maybe we'll stack them up here for a minute. There's a cute little rhizome. Now when you dig these up, sometimes you'll find, you see this? This was a piece of seed that we grew from. So you've got the piece of seed there, and then you've got the ginger that we grew this season. And of course you've got some extra little pieces, but look at this, it's starting to sprout already. It's wanting to take off a little bit here. So yeah, we left them a little long, but you can see they're nice little pieces of ginger on here. Take off some of these tops, but there you go. You can see you can definitely grow ginger here. We'll bring it back after we get this one little pot harvested. We'll bring it back to show you guys everything that we got out of it. I don't know how the weather is where you're at, but we're really starting to hit that time of year where it's time to turn on the heat and hunker down for a long winter. Well, there's one that broke off of this. This is a lovely piece. Look at this, guys. Look at that piece of ginger. Isn't that pretty? Just showing you can definitely grow it here. That's a really pretty piece. This is what I was telling you about. This is your seed. You see, it's just empty. My favorite time of the year is seeing what we actually grew. Look at that one, guys. How pretty is that? Isn't that pretty? Take a look. What do you think about that? It's very nice. This is actually one of our smaller pots too. Plants didn't do great. I kind of let too many weeds, and I don't think letting weeds have to compete with these guys is probably the best idea, but there was definitely some weeds in this pot. There's a nice piece too. You look at that. Sure there's nothing else in here. Nope, but I definitely feel these guys. There's a nice little piece right there. Hold on, let's check this out right here. Fill this all right here. Check that out. That's nice. Got your new gingers there. Some more on here. Here's our seed, obviously. The seed is right there. And this is all new. And this is just little baby ones, little tiny baby ones. Well, you could plant those back and grow some more, but they're just teeny tinies. And that, my friends, is probably all we're gonna have in this one. I knew we didn't have a whole lot of plants in this one, so I wasn't really expecting a whole lot out of that one. But I do want to set you up and let you see the little planters that I made these out of. So these are, this is grow bags that I just kind of pushed into a square. So super easy to use. Super easy to take apart in the wintertime. And then we'll put the soil away, refeed it with some compost and stuff in the spring, and we will reuse it again. So don't always have to just throw your soil away. As long as you haven't had any, you know, weird, funky things happen with your soil, don't worry about reusing some of it, you know, because it's not just got to be thrown away. You definitely can reuse your soil, but you want to refeed it, you know, take care of it. And kind of like during the cold months when you're not out there growing, make sure that you do something with it. Don't just set it out in the rain and let it get moldy and, you know, sodden with so much water that you end up getting some anaerobic type of life going in it. So we'll take this and we'll start a pile, and we'll probably put some compost with it evenly and cover it up nicely and let it go through the winter and kind of regenerate itself. So the bag comes out like so. As you can see, just a crate that you grow your produce in. So we'll stack those up outside, and then your soil ended up in here. And like I was telling you, this was just a regular old grow bag that I pushed into a square. So that is the big trick. Super easy, great way to grow ginger in a small space. Like I am a very small urban farm here in the valley of Mount Rainier, close to Seattle. And so growing ginger is not something normally that people do, but I start my ginger out early in the year, and then when the weather turns nice, I put them out about the same time I put out my tomatoes or my peppers and things, and they go crazy all summer outside. So stick with us, we'll go to number 2. Okay, so here we are moving on to number 2 of our produce bin grown ginger in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, we're pulling this out. Oh, here's another one of those seeds. Interesting. See that? It's just totally empty. That's what we grew them from. So that's nice. That's just garbage. Here we go with a nice piece of little ginger there. Hopefully I'm going from the worst to the best, because these are the ones that weren't quite, you know, very big or anything. So I'm trying to check those out first. Again, I love looking at these seeds because it's just like there's nothing left of them. They've just gone completely away. I'll grab these guys. And then we'll rip through a little bit. There's a little piece. Feel something a little nicer down here. Here's a nice little bit nicer piece there. I'll feel some down here. Let's see. Got a nice little piece here. Let's see. Feel some down in here. It's nice if you let your soil kind of dry some and you do some nice soft soil like I try to do here. It's nice because when you're digging through there, you can kind of just shuffle through with your hands to be able to find it. Now, of course, these were grown in grow bags, basically. So it's going to be different if you put it in the ground. But my theory on growing in the ground here in the Pacific Northwest, I'm not sure that would actually work, guys, because our soil temperatures really never get very warm. And so ginger obviously comes from a tropical place. So this is a seed. Seed meaning it's not really a seed. It's the original rhizome that I planted to grow from. So that's why I say it's a seed. And the reason I can tell the difference, it's darker and they're kind of soft. And some of them are just completely emptied out. But I was talking about the temperatures here. This is obviously a seed, but then it has a new piece on it too. But the temperatures here never really get too warm in our soils. So I tend not to grow things like sweet potatoes, turmeric, or ginger in our ground. Now, if you have a warmer place, of course, go for that. Even if you're in my area and you have a microclimate where your soils get warmer, you could do that. But when I measure my temperatures here, they never get too warm in our native soil. So I don't really recommend trying to grow ginger in our in-ground. I think a pot in your driveway, in your up beside a metal building. These are both all seeds. You can see they're squishy. But somewhere warm in your yard if you're in the Pacific Northwest, or a cool place, works really well. Of course you can grow it in a greenhouse, but I choose not to. First of all, in the summertime, my greenhouses, we do get some sun, so then in the summertime, the greenhouses might max out at 125 degrees, and that's too warm, obviously. So here's some more, some roots and things we'll kind of rip off here. So that's a nice little piece. But yeah, so I grow in these grow bags, and like I said, I kind of change it around. I used to grow in, you know, whiskey barrels, which you still could grow in a whiskey barrel, and a whiskey barrel is great, except for the bottom 2/3 of the barrel, nothing goes down there, because I mean, you can see the length of these roots pretty much. They're going to get some feeder roots that are going to go longer, of course, but the main roots are what, 4 inches long at the most. And so, you know, they're very happy in this pot. I can get these pretty warm, I can keep them pretty warm, and I can move them around without having them weigh 300 pounds, you know, so these work really well for us. And then same thing I did before, I'll go through the soil, make sure we have nothing in it, and then I'll dump the soil out, and we'll feed it all winter long, and we'll move on to number 3. Moving right along, we're on to number 3. I think you can probably see each one gets gradually a little bit healthier looking, a little bit more plants in it. So here's our number 3. Well, that's a little tiny one there. That's our seed again. Got some interesting pretty ones on it, huh? Empty seed also. That one has some on it. Feel the seed there. Snap the seed off, and I'll put the seed in my recycling stuff for our compost piles. Let's see if we can take one of these guys out without completely breaking it apart. Let's see. I wanted to be able to show you guys how I was talking about how they grow horizontally, like one finger connected to the next, connected to the next, but you can kind of see it there. See, connect, 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 and that's how they run kind of along there. They're very pretty, and the smell is just odoriferous. It's beautiful. The smell is wonderful. The leaves smell really great and everything. Even though the leaves right now are getting pretty dried out here, they are smelling up, smell-o-vision here for me in my greenhouse. It smells terrific. Some old roots here. I don't feel anything else on this side. Not much. Again, fun little empty. Original piece there it was. Another pretty piece, pretty piece. Let's look right here. Oh, there's another nice piece. Make sure we don't have any more in there. It's a little tiny guy there. Now I'm going to turn around and start my ginger literally in about 6 weeks. I'll be starting my ginger for next season. It takes a while to grow it out, so I do it real slow and just let it take its time, and then I'll start them out like in a seedling tray, which is like a 10 by 20 tray, and then move them on as they root up and things. But at least I'll get them started so they can have some time to really get going. As in all things that we're growing out of its natural environment, we got to think about where it came from and how it grows. And of course, this is not natural for them to be growing here. So we got to extend our season a little bit. So to do that, completely deflated. Look at that, guys. How empty. It's so interesting how they just gone. And by the way, when you're growing ginger, that's one of the things people do, is that they'll overwater till your rhizome, till that part that, you know, we were just showing you that was the original seed, until that thing is completely rotted out. And that's why people say, oh, my ginger all died. But generally it's because you watered it so much, you allowed it to die by suffocation, because it can get no air. And plants need air in their roots, just like we need air. Their roots need air. So the best thing you can do is to think about how this would grow naturally. So what I do is I like soak them until they're just, you know, like a rainstorm has hit them. Soak them really well, and then I allow them to almost completely dry out before I water them again. So depending on your weather, the conditions, if they're on a heat mat, you you know, how the environment is and stuff, it's going to depend on when they have to get watered again. But I wait and, you know, let the plant lead the way. So when the plant starts to feel like it's a little bit droopy, a little bit maybe, or if you put your hand in there and you feel like, oh, there's no moisture left in this. Like right now, this soil is perfect. It's perfect. There's just a little bit of moisture in there. So this is a time where I would water this really well again. It's just almost clumps together, but not quite. So if I were watering this, if I were growing in this, I would say this is a time now to soak my plants again, soak my roots, get them real wet, and then let them dry out again. So that's how not to let them rot out. And then the other thing you can do is, especially if you have them on a heat mat, is that, or a nursery mat, because, you know, we set those around 75 degrees. And what people do often with that is that they'll put them on there and they'll get worried about making them rot. So then they'll go the opposite way and they'll mummify them. So you put them on there and you keep them so dry that they eventually just shrivel up like a raisin basically and just completely like dehydrate in the soil. So you don't want to go that way either. You just kind of have to let the plant lead the way. So just kind of keep checking the soil and thinking about what the plant would need to grow, and then follow its lead. So that's a pretty nice little clump right there. Let's see if there's anything else in here. I don't think so. I think that is probably the end of number 3. Moving on. Well, as you can see, number 4 has got a little bit more growth on it. It actually flowered during the season, which is kind of cool. So that tells me somebody liked its environment a little bit better there. And so we're going to cut off some of this top growth so that you can see in here a little bit better. I don't really remember what I did to those other ones to make them smaller, but somehow they were at some kind of a disadvantage. And I remember there was something about the other ones. I think maybe I planted them really late or something like that. I can't really remember, but it was something like that. The first 3 pots that you looked at are grow bins. So there we go. We've got some nice strong ones here. I should have showed you some flowers to make sure. I'll show you some flowers on the next go around. Let's see if I can show you what a flower looks like. Well, here's a worn out flower from this plant, but you can see that was a flower of a ginger. So when I see something flowering, that makes me think, well, at least he was happy. And they were really pretty during the summer, the flowers on the ginger plant. So they were enjoyable, but also, like I just said, it tells you that the plant must have been happy. So that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for happy plants, right, people? Happy plants, happy growing. Oh, look at this. A little squirrel put his little hazelnut in here, so poor guy's gonna miss that, isn't he? I guess that proves you that these were outside, because the squirrel didn't come into the greenhouse and put that hazelnut in there, did he? So here we go. So that's a pretty decent little piece there. The original seed all completely hollowed out there. There we go. Got some pretty little gingers there, eh? We'll get these cleaned up at the end so we can make sure and give you a little bit better view of what's going on here. Snap off some of these big roots, but not a bad piece of ginger there. This is all original. Must have broken off from the piece it was growing, but this is one of the original ones I planted. I always try to pull back some of my ginger for regrowing also, because I kind of have this theory, if not, I think it's pretty much anecdotal, so I can't really prove it, but that as we grow things in our area, that they get a little bit of genetic memory for growing here. So if I save seeds from this harvest, my theory is that it'll do even better next year because it's going to be used to our temperatures a little bit. So maybe the mama plant has put some memory into it of what it was like to grow when it wasn't particularly perfect and it wasn't, you know, a tropical climate of, you know, really warmth and stuff like that. So it's a theory anyways. It works for me. Makes me feel good. Thank you that it works anyway. So You can use that idea or not, but I like to save back some of my ginger to replant. So here we go, some more cute little guys. Empty one. There's some nice ones. Nice little weed there. Some more empties. Let's see. Some roots cleaning out. I'm trying to clean out the soil a little bit as we go because, like I said, we're going to reuse this soil. So we're going to repurpose it. And we'll start right here. Now, if you have a place where you can pull your stuff inside, so if you have an area to grow this inside, you can keep this plant going, and then you can just reach down in here and take out what you want and, you know, get your own ginger going in the house. It's a beautiful house plant. They'll smell up your whole house like beautiful ginger, and then you can just harvest out what you need. I do not have the area to do that or the bandwidth to kind of go on and keep it going, so I don't do that. But if you have the inclination to do it, absolutely bring them in there, make a wonderful house plant. Obviously there's ornamental ones. This is not the ornamental, but there's obviously ornamental ones too. But that's a really pretty piece of garlic. That is not garlic, of ginger. It's very beautiful. That is probably as good as it gets here for me. Is, you know, that's a lovely piece, and you can see, like I said, hand to hand to hand, but you see the distance of it. It's never going to go that deep. So this kind of growing bag works perfect for me, about 8 inches deep. So let's see, we've got another piece here. Snap off some of these roots, like I said, trying to clean up things. Let's get this guy out here. Let's get this one. Okay, come on out, guys. There you go. Broke off a little guy there. It's already getting pretty cold out here. We don't have any heat on out here, but looks like we're gonna have to start putting some heat on out here. We've got a few plants left in here that I don't want to freeze, so I'll probably just set my thermostat just above freezing so that things don't completely get frozen down to the ground. But obviously these guys wouldn't even like that. So that's a nice piece there, guys. Got really nice pieces here. Very lovely. Small piece. Good enough. Good thing about ginger, small pieces taste the same as big pieces. They're all very, very good. I don't know if you've ever had pickled ginger, but it's phenomenal. I keep thinking I'm going to try that, but I haven't found the time yet to make my own. I buy it and love it, but making it would be really great because I do love ginger. I put ginger in everything. So when I'm making stir fry or something like that and they call for a teaspoon of ginger, I'll put 4 teaspoons in there because we have it. Or when I do my pickling of almost everything, but I just pickled a bunch of sunchokes and I put a lot of ginger in it and they came out phenomenal. So, you know, ginger is a great plant and it's very healthy, super good for you, and obviously tastes very good in everything you cook with. So there's another nice piece. So we're building up our pile, so we'll move on to our next. Number 4, moving along, and you can see it's even a little bit bigger, more growth, I should say, than the last one. So happy, happy, happy this one is. You know, I'm pretty sure I think I started 3 a little bit earlier and 3 a little bit later because I was only going to do 3, and then I decided, oh, I'll do these. So the other ones kind of got a little bit later start. Take off some of these top growths. Now, in other times, other years when I've harvested maybe a little bit earlier and the leaves were a little bit more green and hardy, I actually took the leaves and I dried them out. I dehydrated them and saved them for tea, and they really were nice actually in tea. So you can do that if you're inclined to dry your ginger leaves out. This guy also flowered. I found a few flower stalks in it. I'll put some pictures on here with my video so you can see what they actually look like when the flowers are not dried and dead like they are right now. But this guy is pretty darn happy, I think, guys. So let's hope that we get some good yields out of this one. Well, there's some ginger sticking out of the ground. That's a good sign. See what I was saying about how they grow horizontally along? So it's very interesting because generally the clusters are not like clustered like a big group. They're generally like along this way. So I'd be inclined to say this is probably one all by itself here. Let's take a look and see. Kind of a fun, different thing to grow and to know, you know, where your food came from, and to know that, look, there was no chemicals used on this. There was no strange things done to it. It's just plain old ginger that we harvested last year and started growing, and then we use it in our food to make things taste yummy. So there we go. It's a little bit of one. Hopefully there's some more underneath the ground there. Sometimes you worry that it has such beautiful top growth. Maybe it didn't do anything on the bottom. Look at this. Another proof that these were outside. Mr. Squirrel's been busy with the walnuts. Yeah, they're going crazy this time of year, aren't they? I don't know if you guys got squirrels around you, but they're burying those little nuts everywhere. Okay, guys, let's let go. I hope to hear from you guys on, like, if you decide to do this, you know, you literally can go to the store and buy, always, if you can help it, try to buy organic. You look for some with some nice little nubs on it. If you're in my area, I do sell plants in the spring. So I like to sell plants because that gives you the opportunity to start out with a successful plant rather than starting from scratch and maybe not getting them in time. But you got enough now, you got enough notice right now that you can get your ginger bought, get it cleaned up, and get started early enough to grow it if you're in a northern environment. If you're in a warmer place, hey, you got the leg up on us anyway, so you aren't gonna have to worry about starting it at Christmas time practically, you know, to get a harvest for next fall. But this is a beautiful, I call them hands. Kind of reminds me of hands, you know, they kind of look like a few, oops, I broke that one off the end. So it looks like a few hands growing together there, but that's beautiful. Here's another one. We got some roots down here. I actually tried to taste one of these roots to see if they would be good, but they're not. Don't try it. Very fibrous. You know, you're like, hey, if it's ginger, maybe the roots are even good, but they weren't. But the leaves are good. The leaves are very good. Let's see here. Here we go. Snap off these big boys. Kind of holding true to what I said, isn't it, guys? That they put on these roots, but they just don't go that deep. So I really, the first few years growing it, I grew them in those giant pots, and then we'd, you know, trying to move them around was like almost impossible because you know how hard it is to move a whiskey barrel full of soil. And so much easier to haul these guys around. I can even move this crate right here myself. It's just, like I said, a standard produce crate. But, you know, it doesn't even have to be this big. You could grow it in a 5-gallon bucket. You could grow it in a, you know, those ones that go on, oh, they go over a railing on a deck or something. Those guys seem like they would be about the right size too. You know, they're kind of narrow and long, and you could put them over the railing of a deck, something like that. But I think those would be a wonderful way to do it too. But, you know, be creative. There's so many ways you can do it to grow ginger. And turmeric grows the same way. Turmeric, I didn't do as much turmeric this year as I did in the past. I kind of scaled back a little bit on my turmeric for no particular reason. None. I just didn't get around to doing it. Just like, almost like these guys. I barely got around to harvesting these guys. You know, you get kind of caught up in the moment and get things going. You're like, okay, we need to get these guys in before they freeze to the ground out here because it's not warm. Right now I am in November 14th. So it's definitely getting almost Thanksgiving time, and I've just harvesting the ginger. So you can see why the tops of my poor little ginger were so brown and things, because even though it's not completely frozen them to the ground, because they are in my greenhouse now, there's no heat out here. So when it hits 27 at night, they're still getting pretty cold for a tropical plant. So they think they're done. They don't want to keep trying anymore, I think is what they're telling me. Let's see what we got going on down at this end. Yeah, turmeric to me takes a little longer to grow. The turmeric ends up, you know, with the big, beautiful leaves, and you want it, in order to get a good amount of turmeric, I always try to leave it till the leaves kind of die back down. So I always end up pulling the turmeric in the house for a little bit longer, because I think it's more like of a, you know, 12 to 18 months kind of a grow to me. So I try to leave the turmeric to get a little bit more time to grow rather than rushing it to get done just because it's freezing. So, but you definitely can grow turmeric. If you can grow ginger, you can grow turmeric. If you can grow sweet potatoes, I think you can grow turmeric and ginger. And we're growing all three of those here. Along with down here at the end, I've got wasabi. I'm growing wasabi. So, you know, don't limit yourself. Just get creative and try to match Mother Nature and change up how you're doing it and listen to Mother Nature. Obviously, I can't grow turmeric and ginger right beside sweet potatoes. Well, I can grow those three together. But you can grow ginger, turmeric, sweet potatoes in the same environment as your tomatoes. But you definitely are not going to grow wasabi in that same environment because wasabi likes it opposite. Wasabi likes it cool and things. So just kind of listen to your plants and do what they would do in nature. So emulate nature. Don't fight nature because nature will always win. So you might want to say, oh, we're going to do it this way, but nature's going to tell you that isn't the way it works. So, and you know, sometimes we have failures, and if you have a failure, just bounce right back, because anytime you think it's a failure, well, there really isn't a failure. In gardening, it's all lessons learned. So the more we listen to nature and we mess up and we try new things and then, hey, maybe it doesn't work out, well, then you know not to do that next time, and you know how better to do it. And if you never try things, you'll never win, because you can't learn if you're not trying to do different things, you know. So you gotta keep it going and keep it interesting so that you can learn by making mistakes and challenging yourself to do different things. So, you know, if you're interested in a particular type of thing, go ahead and try to grow it. I once grew peanuts here. And that one was one that I thought I didn't repeat because it was a huge thing to grow peanuts. We did get peanuts, but as you know much about peanuts, this is not the environment, a maritime Northwest environment. But we got peanuts, but it definitely was not worth the work we did to get those peanuts. So that's the end of that one, guys. So we'll got one more to go, and then we'll do a wrap up and show you everything we got. Okay, here we go for washing up our ginger. You're gonna see me steaming out here a little bit because, as I said, it is, I don't know, I think we're probably pretty close to 40 degrees now. So we are outside getting this cleaned up somewhat so we can take a peek at it for you. But look at that, folks. Isn't that beautiful? That's why we grow ginger. I'm going to get them rinsed off really well out here, and then I'll be taking them in the house because I don't feel like standing out here and freezing to death while I clean this up. So we're going to get them all washed down, and then we'll get them in the house and separate them out and stuff and let you see how we really finished it up. But so far, looking pretty darn good. Not going to complain here. Look at that. It's a beautiful one. And you know, from the ones I showed you in the beginning, we got some little ones too. So don't think if you get little ones, they're not usable, because these guys are usable. There's nothing wrong with using these too. So all of this, guys, it's all usable. I tried to take out the ones that were the original seeds. So this is all usable ginger. So if you get small stuff, don't get discouraged. Just pull it back and plant it again and go for it another time. I have made plenty of mistakes. Trust me, I got a lot of them. Well, remember, I try not to call them mistakes. These are called lessons, garden lessons. Nature, Mother Earth, nature, God has plenty of lessons for us. And so when you try to feel a little bit cocky, that's an old one. When you try to feel a little bit cocky and you think you know what you're doing, you'll get a lesson real quick that says, oh, wait a sec, I'm not as smart as I think I am. So you'll grow some, and sometimes it'll be great big ones, just like when you're growing anything else. And other times, maybe not. But then you'll learn something from it, and maybe you'll do it a little bit differently next time. So stick with us, and you're going to grow ginger in a cool environment, in a warm environment, wherever you're at. If you want to grow ginger, you can do it. So moving along here with our ginger harvest, we've got them inside now. You saw me outside spraying them off with the hose. Got a couple of sharp little pairs of scissors here, and we're going to just start taking off some of these tops. I like to use these little ones because I can get to the finer little things like this as I'm cleaning these up again. And then of course I will be scrubbing them up again in the sink. So we want to start getting them cleaned up pretty well here. And then we'll put them in the sink in a bit and we'll finish cleaning them up. But this at least will get us started with pruning them up and getting some of the extra growth off of them. And then being able to line them up and get the rest of the dirt off of them and separate them. Because as you can tell with ginger, they're pretty easy to leave dirt on them. So you want to like mess around with getting the dirt off of them. So it kind of is 2 stages. I try to take most of the dirt off outside, and then I take the rest of the dirt off on inside with the scrub brush and stuff as we take them apart. But so we're going to start to kind of take these guys apart a little bit. So there you go. See what I'm talking about, the dirt. So there's some. We'll take this maybe right here. Do a few more and show you how we clean them up a little bit more. Try to take off those extra little roots and things like that. Breaking them apart. You have some older pieces and some younger pieces in here. That's okay. We're going to break that right there. Probably break it again right there so we can get to these roots. And then you'll take a scrub brush in your sink and just finish getting the soil off of it. And then you decide how you want to put them away. Like I said, for us, I will more than likely be freeze drying these because I get a big jar of it each year. And I use it like crazy in everything. So let's see. I didn't mean to take that one off, but see, this is really tight in here. So that's going to be really hard for me to clean very well. So I'm going to break it off like that. And then we'll finish getting these roots off here. I'll show you the jar that I work on. This is the jar. I keep a half-gallon jar. I don't know, probably many people that keep a half-gallon jar in their cupboard. But this is my half-gallon jar from last year. So what do I have? About half of it left still, but I use a lot of ginger. So that's a half-gallon jar. And then I just put it in a jar like this, and I use my food saver with the little top that goes over it to suck the air out of it. And then I keep a dry out. This is an oxygen absorber in here. And I also probably have a dry out one in there too. But this just keeps them nice and dry so that you have it nice and powdered. And like I said, this is last year. So this is a full year old. And you can see that it's not hard or anything, and I use it constantly. So that's a really good way to do it. If you have a freeze dryer or dehydrator, I recommend doing this. But if you don't, freezer works perfect. Just put them in freezer and put them through your Vitamix, your nice high-powered blender. And then after you've got them pulverized and you've got them blended up pretty good, then you could just put them in an ice cube tray or any other little trays that you want to do so you have the right size. So it's whatever serving size your family uses at a single time, you know. So, you know, if you know a ice cube tray would be the right size, then freeze them in an ice cube tray. If you know you need a little bit smaller one, you know, maybe you're a single person or something, just pick up some of those littler types of trays and then you can put them away in that. So, well, I'll continue doing this and then I'll get back and we'll see the end results. Well, that's the end of the video, but I wanted to show you guys a few pictures of when we first planted them. I then just moved them out into our yard and in our gardens. And then at the end of the season, I did move them back inside just for a couple weeks, just to try to give them a couple more weeks in the greenhouse. But that's the harvest. Then I like to freeze dry them, put them through my Vitamix, and store them in dry jars of quartz and things so that I can put them in all my teas and my stir fries. So grow your own ginger. You can do it. And please subscribe and follow along. So we've got all kinds of videos and learning all kinds of things. But you can do it. Grow ginger, the Pacific Northwest.